Welcome in, everyone, to the Football Addicts Anonymous podcast. Good to have Logan here today for a little bit, anyways.
Good to be
A
here.
lot of stuff happening. Not necessarily NFL news, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Trade, got some USFL stuff, Hall of Fame semifinalists for the seniors and the coach contributor categories. And then finish off NFC West season preview, our first divisional season preview of the off season. So start here with the USFL. We had some insight with a interview that Birmingham head coach Skip Holtz did, some insight into what is to come for the 2023 USFL season. So the league is planning to expand rosters from 50 to 75. That'll split the bottom 15 or so, however many they put on the practice squad, as well as the active roster. So, I mean, that's good. It gives more guys opportunities. 15 more guys will get opportunities to play professional football and develop.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, he said the OTAs are going to be planned for October. The possibly in each team's home market, which was a surprise, and we're not completely sure on if that's true or not. But Skip Holtz said that OTAs will be held in each team's home market.
Yeah, I think both of those insights really bode well for the health of the league itself and kind of where they're at. I don't think you would make those kind of changes if you were worried about the leagues just surviving. Like we know in the past, leagues have just come and gone in the blink of an eye. So I think both of those things bode well for the USFL sticking around, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Fox has enough money; they can they can afford the costs it takes to get the league up and running and popularized in culture. All right, let's talk about the trade. Baker finally is moving. The Panthers acquired Brown quarterback Baker Mayfield for a 2024 conditional fifth-round selection. It can become a fourth rounder if he plays 70% or more of the snaps this season. But still, I mean, the Browns don't get that pick until 2024, 2 years down the line, 2 drafts away. So the Browns, they are going to be paying Baker Mayfield $10.5 million of his guaranteed $18.8 million fifth-year option. The Panthers, they will pay him $5 million, and then Mayfield agreed to a $3.5 million pay cut. The Browns will now be paying Baker $10.5 million to beat them in Week 1 because it is Browns at Panthers Week 1.
Yeah. I joked they're gonna have to flex it to prime time just because everyone's gonna want to see Baker all fired up.
Jacoby Brissett versus Baker Mayfield, huh?
Just studded primetime game.
Yeah, I mean it's not completely 100% that Baker will be the number 1 QB. They do still like Sam Darnold in Carolina, and they paid a lot more to get him than they did Baker. So we'll see. It's going to be a battle. I don't know if Matt Corral really has a shot now. I thought he did with just Sam Darnold being there and PJ Walker, but now I'm not so sure.
Yeah. If I was a betting man, I'd put it on Baker. And I do think that he is better than Darnold. And I think it gets them marginally better at the quarterback position, but I don't think it's enough, obviously, of an upgrade to materially affect, kind of their success this year.
Does this move save Matt Rule?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I just don't see it.
All right. We'll talk about that more during our NFC South season preview. Other NFL news. So the Hall of Fame announced its semifinalists for the seniors in the coach contributor spot. So 12 seniors and 12 coaches and contributors will be selected as finalists. They have a meeting, I believe it's August, I forget, 16th or 23rd, somewhere around middle to late August. They will have their meeting to select finalists, and then up to 3 seniors and 1 coach contributor will be selected to the 2023 Hall of Fame class. So there are 25 senior committee players. Their last, in order to be a senior on the senior committee selection ballot, you have to have played your last season no later than 1996. So they are Bengals quarterback Ken Anderson. He played for the Bengals his whole career, 71 to 86. 49ers running back Roger Craig. He was with the Niners 83 to 90, with the LA Raiders 91, and with the Vikings 92 to 93. Oilers wide receiver returner Billy White Shoes Johnson. He was with the Oilers 74 to 80, the Falcons 82 to 87, and the Redskins 88. The Raiders corner Lester Hayes. He was with the Raiders in Oakland and LA 77 to 86. From 60 to 65, the LA Rams 66 to 70, and the Redskins in 74. Browns linebacker Clay Matthews Jr. with the Browns 78 to 93, and the Falcons 94 to 96. Falcons linebacker Tommy Novus. He was with the Falcons 66 to 76. Cowboys linebacker Chuck Howley, actually drafted by the Bears, was with them 58 to 59. Interesting note on him, because I was reading some of these guys' stories as I looked them up when they played with who. He actually retired after 2 seasons, thought he had a unrepairable knee injury, came back after missing the 60 season, came back with the Cowboys 61 to 73, played a fantastic career with Dallas in the 60s and early 70s. Chiefs wide receiver Otis Taylor, 65 to 75 with KC. Packers wide receiver Sterling Sharp with the Packers 88 to 94. Dolphins wide receiver Mark Clayton, Dolphins 83 to 92, and also a Packer in 93. Patriots wide receiver Stanley Morgan with the Patriots 77 to 89, and the Colts in 90. Mark Clayton, actually, when I first looked that up, I was thinking Ravens Mark Clayton. I was like, oh, I forgot there's 2 Mark Claytons. Another Packers end, Laverne Dilweg with the Milwaukee Badgers in 1926. and the Packers from 27 to 34. Have you heard of Laverne Dilweg?
I have not. Unfortunately, I'm not up on my Laverne Dilweg knowledge, but I'll tell you what, I did stumble across the Milwaukee Badgers one time when I was down a complete Wikipedia hole, if you will. So I know a little bit about that, but
Look, Laverne Dilweg, Laverne Ralph Levy Dilweg. Levy was his nickname. He was a football player, an attorney, and a U.S. congressman in Wisconsin. Apparently, he went to Marquette.
Get out!
He went to Moles. He went to Marquette.
No
University
way!
Law School.
Oh my God, he's one of us.
Yes, born and raised in Milwaukee. I don't know where Washington High School is, but yes, Marquette University. Played college football for the Golden Avalanche. Was Marquette the Golden Avalanche at one?
Yeah, they were. Yep. Yeah, the
I had never heard of that.
Yeah, it predated the Golden Eagles moniker and even the Warriors moniker that they had dropped.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he played college football at Marquette University. And yeah, went to Marquette Law School. And while he was in law school, he played for the Milwaukee Badgers in 1926.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, he said, I was reading up on it. He said he had his football practice in the morning, and then he would go to law school. Or no, I think that was a different guy. Yeah, no, when he was with the Packers, when he signed with the Packers, he would have football in the morning and then go to his law firm after.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Laverne Dilweg, great guy.
Renaissance man.
Part of the great the early Packers teams. Anyways, Colts offensive tackle Chris Hinton was with the Colts in Baltimore and Indy, 83 to 89, the Falcons 90 to 93, and the Vikings 94 to 95. Dolphins guard Bob Kuechenberg with the Dolphins 70 to 84. Packers quarterback / running back Cecil Isbell. He was with the Packers 38 to 42. He had some records actually back then. Played, like I said, quarterback and running back. He had the original longest streak with a touchdown pass. 23 straight games he threw a touchdown pass in the 1920s.
Wow. That's actually
1930s.
That's a big accomplishment, really, if you think about it, because of how different the game was back then.
Yeah, he was one of the greatest tailbacks of the 30s and 40s. Redskins offensive tackle Joe Jacoby was with Washington 81 to 93. Falcons / Colts offensive tackle George Coons. Falcons 69 to 74. Baltimore Colts 75 to 80. Falcons offensive tackle Mike Ken was with them 78 to 94. Jets defensive lineman Joe Klecko was with the Jets 77 to 87 and the Colts in 88. Vikings defensive end Jim Marshall with the Browns in 60 and the Vikings 61 to 79. Rams corner Eddie Meter was with the LA Rams 59 to 70. Bengals corner Ken Riley 69 to 83. And then Cowboys corner defensive back Everson Walls, Cowboys 81 to 89, Giants 90 to 92, and the Browns 92 to 93. So do you see 3 senior finalists that you think will make the class?
Well, first off, I think we need to start the agenda, the Laverne, the Laverne Delwig agenda needs to be started by us, so that we can get one of our own in. Other than him, the only guy that I can really, and it's kind of a homer pick, I think, but I think it could and potentially should have happened is Sterling Sharp, Packers wide receiver from 88 to 94. If you look at, what he was able to do in his short career, which was cut short due to a neck injury. I mean, he was one of the most dominant wide receivers of his era. And, I think the Calvin Johnson admittance to the Hall kind of established a precedent for allowing guys in with shorter careers, but who were incredibly dominant in their time and changed, kind of fundamentally changed kind of the game. I mean, looking at his stuff here, 3-time first team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl. He led the NFL in receptions 3 times. He led the NFL in receiving touchdowns twice, and he was the receiving yards leader in 92. That's a pretty good resume for a guy who only had 7 seasons because it was cut short due to a neck injury. That's somebody who I would kind of pound the table for, if you will, for the Packers delegation.
Yeah, he was a close 4th for me. But my 3rd guy that I had was Niners running back Roger Craig, instrumental part of the late Montana years, the early Steve Young years in San Fran, and with the Raiders and Vikings as well. But yeah, Roger Craig was my first one there. Like I said, he was the last guy I picked. The other 2 I thought were pretty easy to pick. My second guy was Redskins offensive tackle Joe Jacoby. I mean, he was a part of the John Riggins era in Washington, where they were just dominant on the offensive line. So he was my second guy. And then my third one, I think this guy is a shoo-in with the 25 guys that we have. Everson Walls was a great part of the 80s Cowboys before they started winning the Super Bowls in the 90s and after they had won the Super Bowls in the 70s. So he was in the Cowboys years that they weren't very good, but he was one of the best players of those teams, and then played with the Giants and Browns as well. I think Louis Riddick was on the Browns with him. I can't remember if he was old enough to be on the Browns in 92 or 93 yet, but I know I believe Louis Riddick has talked about Everson Walls highly in the past. So I think Everson Walls is like the guy in that 25 that needs to get in most definitely. And then, Clay Matthews Jr. as well. He's been around the Hall of Fame for a while. Billy White Shoes Johnson as well, I think, has an opportunity. And then the other guy that I like is Joe Klecko as well. Okay, coach contributors. I didn't see how many people we have. I think there's more coach contributors for one spot than there is for the players, and potentially 3 spots. Doesn't have to be 3 spots for the players. There can be less, 1 or 2, but 3 is the max, which they expanded last year, I believe it was. But yeah, the coach contributors: Oilers owner K.S. Bud Adams Jr. owned the Oilers from 60 to 2013. Creator of Monday Night Football, Rune Arledge. Oilers / Titan scout C.O. Brocato was with the Oilers and Titans 40 years, 75 to 14. Chargers head coach Don Coryell was the St. Louis Cardinals head coach, 73 to 77. And then the Chargers head coach in San Diego, 78 to 86. Eagles athletic trainer Otho Davis with the Baltimore Colts, 71 to 72. And the Eagles, 73 to 95. Canton Bulldogs owner. There you go. Ralph Hay owned the Bulldogs from 1918 to 22.
Major throwback.
49ers executive John McVay. That's Sean McVay's grandfather. He was the VP of football administration for the Niners, 80 to 94, and the special assistant to the president in 95, and then the GM from 98 to 99. Chiefs president / GM Carl Peterson was in that role with the Chiefs, 89 to 08. Patriots executive Frank Bucko Kilroy, director of player personnel, 71 to 78. The GM, 79 to 82. Vice president, 83 to 93. And then a scout consultant from 94 to 2006. Ram scout Eddie Kotal was with the LA Rams, 46 to 65. Bucks / Falcons GM Rick McKay. That's supposed to be Rich. I don't remember. It's Rich or Rick. I don't know. I feel like it's supposed to be Rich, but I might have just typed Rick. I don't know. With the Bucks, their GM 94 to 03, Super Bowl with John Gruden. With the Falcons, he was their GM 03 to 08, and then he is the Falcons president right now. Has been in that role since 08. Browns / Ravens owner Art Modell with the Browns, owned the Browns 61 to 95, moved them to Baltimore to become the Ravens, 96 to 04. Cowboys founder Clint Murchison Jr. owned the team from their inception in 60 to 84. Steelers head coach Buddy Parker. He was the St. Louis Cardinals head coach in 49, the Lions head coach in 51, 56, and then the Steelers head coach 57 to 64. Broncos and Falcons head coach Dan Reeves coached the Broncos 81 to 92, the Giants 93 to 96, and the Falcons 97 to 03. It's kind of crazy that he got that someone, I don't think I've seen this as of late, someone getting like 3 straight head coaching opportunities, not having to go to a coordinator role or some other role for a year or two. But Dan Reeves, 3 straight head coaching opportunities. And it was funny too, because I turned on the TV here in NFL Network, and it was the 1998 NFC Championship game, Falcons-Vikings, where the Falcons upset, number 2 seed Falcons upset the 16-1 Vikings. Randall Cunningham and co. in Minnesota. Journalist and Packers director of PR / historian Lee Remmel with the Packers 74 to 2007. Steelers VP Art Rooney Jr. He was the personnel director from 65 to 86. And he is the current vice president, has been in that role since 87. And I didn't know Art Rooney Jr. is a different person than Art Rooney II, the current Steelers owner. Did not know that. I had to look. I took a long time looking this stuff up. I was so confused because you type Art Rooney Jr. into Google and it comes Art Rooney II, not the same guy.
You had to do some digging. You had to do more research than what we have to do for our trial briefs.
Yeah. Yeah. So Art Rooney Jr. is the son of Art Rooney, the original owner, the founder of the Steelers. Art Rooney II is the son of Dan Rooney. Art Rooney Jr. is Dan Rooney's brother. So it's Art Rooney II who owns the Steelers. It's his uncle is Art Rooney Jr. I don't know. I don't know.
That's
why.
not confusing at all. Yeah.
Right. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know. I mean, actually, it kind of makes sense to me because whenever I have kids, one of the names I have, Raymond, has always been in my family, but I wasn't going to name my kid Raymond. I have an uncle that's named Raymond. He's Raymond Jr. So it'd be the same thing if I name mine Raymond the third or Raymond the second. Ray, though, I'm keeping Ray if I have kids.
I like that. Yeah.
But anyways, Chiefs head coach Marty Schottenheimer, the Browns 84-88, the Chiefs 89-98, the Redskins in 01, and the Chargers 02-06. Referee Jim Tooney, I don't know if it's Tooney or Tunney. He was an NFL referee 60-90, 30 years as an NFL official. The only one to ever work back-to-back Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And also he worked 6 Super Bowls, I think, total in his 30 years. Also, one of 2 officials to have worked the first, what was it, 16 Super Bowls or something like that? I don't know. It was more than that. I don't know. It's something like that.
The GOAT.
Referee Jerry Seaman was a referee 75-90, and then the NFL senior director of officiating from 91 to 2001. And then this guy was interesting because, you know, most of the time when you're talking about Hall of Fame, it's head coaches, if you're talking coach category.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was looking at this guy on Wikipedia, he was a head coach, but it wasn't for long. I think he was with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Redskins. I think he was one year with the Redskins as well as their head coach. But the majority of his time, he was the Bears defensive coordinator, Clark Shaughnessy, with the Bears 51-62. He was instrumental in creating the 5-3-3 defense that allowed their outside linebackers to move and cover more. I don't know. You don't really see people using 5-3-3. It's usually the opposite. It's a 3-3-5.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a 5-3-3. It said, trust in Wikipedia, y'all. What you're told not to do in school.
5-3-3 is when you're playing Derrick Henry.
Yeah. That's when you run the 8-2 defense, the 8
yeah,
the 9-2 defense. Elias Sports Bureau owner Seymour Seawoff, 52-19. He owned Elias Sports Bureau. Packers scout Jack Venisi was a scout with the Packers, 50-60. Set up. Unfortunately, I was reading his too. His was a good read too. Set up the Lombardi years with some amazing drafts in the 50s, and unfortunately died at 33 of a heart attack in 1960, the year before they won their first NFL championship since was it 44? They won one in 61. And so unfortunately for him, he died before he could see his success pay off with the great drafts they had in the 50s. Chief scout Lloyd Wells was with the Chiefs 63. I couldn't find an exact date of when he stopped working for the Chiefs. I don't know if he stopped working. He was working up until he died at 85. I believe is how old he was when he died in I don't know when that was, the early 2000s, I think it was. But yeah, I couldn't find an exact range of when he worked for Kansas City. But was instrumental in bringing, I talk about Chiefs wide receiver Otis Taylor is a semifinalist on the player side. Lloyd Wells was the guy he was integral in bringing African-American players to the Chiefs and bringing HBCU players to the AFL teams, because the NFL wasn't really integrating the HBCU and the black players, but the AFL had been bringing those guys in, and that's how they were really competing with the NFL at that time. And then finally, Cowboys, Eagles, and Ravens executive John Wooten. He was a scout with the Cowboys, 75 to 79. Cowboys director of pro personnel, 80 to 91. The Eagles director of player personnel, 92 to 93. Eagles VP of player personnel, 94 to 97. And then the Ravens assistant director of pro and college scouting from 98 to 99. I have my contributor picked. And I when I saw this guy's name on the list, I was like, bro, how has he not been inducted? Mine is Rune Arledge, the creator of Monday Night Football. I mean, I was just shocked that he was not in. I remember one of the first classes in undergrad in my sport management program. It was Rune Arledge. We talked about the creation of Monday Night Football and broadcasting. So yeah, that's my guy for the coach contributor category.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. You know, taking into account how he kind of revolutionized NFL broadcast media. If I had to pick one, because I know that they like giving the owners a lot of love, I'd probably pick Art Modell, Browns Ravens owner, for that span, or Bud Adams, just because the Oilers are one of the more historic franchises in NFL history. I could see that also happening. So those would be my two picks, if I had to guess who would be included.
Yeah, if I had another one, my other one would be Don Coryell. Air Coryell offense was a great part in revolutionizing the passing game in the 70s and 80s into what it is today. Other NFL news. I hate this thing. This is the dumbest news of the day. And it's so dumb. Heinz Field. Well, is Heinz Field no more? The Steelers are renaming the stadium Acrisure Stadium. The stupid name. They are a Michigan-based insurance brokerage firm. They signed a 15-year deal for the naming rights. They're literally taking the ketchup bottles off the scoreboard.
That's history right there.
I know.
See, this is why I need, and it's never going to happen, because the trend is just more commercialization, but I wish that more stadiums were just like Lambeau Field. Like, that's not getting changed. It just is, because it's not branded. So, I don't know. It happened here in Milwaukee. Everyone's all up in arms about Miller Park being AmFam Field now.
Yeah. Soldier Field, we still got Soldier Field there in Chicago as well. Couple of the ones left. But yeah, Heinz Field is no more. I will always call it Heinz Field. I'm not calling it Acrisure Stadium.
It's just a tough name to say too. It doesn't flow well.
Bro, and their logo, I saw their logo on the Steelers announcement today. It's literally like a pyramid. It's a black pyramid with black words. It's like there's no color to it. It's so boring. It's just black. like what is your logo right now?
Not aesthetic. Yep.
I guess can't be creative with the logo and put a bunch of colors in it if you're an insurance brokerage firm. That's the thing too. That's the thing that I don't understand too. Like, why this company? He couldn't
Mhm.
find one that's closer
Yeah.
to the geography for one,
Yeah.
and one that's a bigger name.
Yeah. I've never heard of them. Yeah. And I know that's kind of been the consensus too on like kind of Twitter. It's like, I don't know.
Like this feels like an Enron situation all over again. I mean, I kind of hope it is at the at the behest of the Steelers. It would be bad for them if it is, but get someone better in there.
Yeah.
Got to deal with this name for 15 years now.
It's
Yeah,
tough,
Heinz was a 20-year sponsor.
man.
Speaking of 15 years, ESPN fantasy guru Matthew Berry is gone. He is leaving ESPN, 15 years with the company. I mean, he is the GOAT. He, along with a couple other people, I mean, they built fantasy football into what it is today. Matthew Berry should be on the freaking Hall of Fame semifinalist for contributor.
The contributor.
I mean, he's one of the legends of fantasy football.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's crazy. When I looked at this and I saw the 15 years, I was like, man, that feels like a really long time. But I mean, like you said, he's been one of the pioneers of fantasy football and has led the way for its proliferation. So I don't know. Very interesting. Have they said yet who he's leaving for?
No, he said there's a lot of time to talk about where he's going next. Right now, he just wants to sit back and enjoy what was 15 years.
Man.
I'm sure they'll have a special on him on ESPN and then like next week.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing, Broncos, the Walton Penner, is it Walton Penner? Is that the right name?
Yeah, I think so.
Ownership, the new owners of the Broncos, they have added an interesting name to their ownership group. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice is now a part owner of the Denver Broncos. Grew up in Denver, went to the University of Denver for her undergrad and master's degrees. Spent 12 years in Denver there. So, yeah.
Like, that's more of a fitting role. Do you remember a couple of years ago when like the reports came out that like, well, who was it? Like the Browns, right? We're looking at her for like a GM position or something.
Yeah. She's also been rumored to be in the running for the next commissioner of the NFL as well.
That is interesting.
That would be a shock. For one, being the first African American commissioner, let alone the first African American female commissioner.
Yeah. That would be two separate glass ceilings being broken.
Anyways, and then we got a couple things here. Free agent offensive tackle Dwayne Brown arrested in LAX on a concealed gun charge. Yeah, it's not that great carrying a gun into an airport.
Yeah, you just want to know like what these guys are thinking. Like that's just a like I couldn't imagine like forgetting like, oh, like I forgot my guns in my luggage or something.
He's like, bro, it's not loaded though. All right. Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki. He's likely to play on the franchise tag this year. That's crazy. We haven't really heard of. I mean, I haven't heard anything on any of the franchise guys in terms of contract negotiation. But I mean, we're getting to it. Was it the 16th is the deadline? I think 5 days.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I'm sure we'll hear more about all those guys. Jesse Bates, Dalton Schultz, etc. I don't remember who all they are, but yeah, Mike Gesicki. That's one I have heard about though, a couple times, saying they have not gotten anywhere near a deal. Ravens, they finally came to terms with linebacker Justin Houston on a 1-year deal. He was one of 2 guys that got tagged with the, I don't remember what kind of tag it was. It was one of the it was like a special tag that like teams don't use very often. Him and Melvin Ingram tagged again. I don't remember the name of the tag.
Yeah,
they were tagged, and it's a tag where if you don't sign with another team, you automatically revert to your last team, the team that tagged you, if you don't sign with another team before July 15th or something like that.
That makes sense. Almost like a restricted free agent.
Yeah. Falcons, they signed Bears defensive tackle Eddie Goldman to a 1-year deal. I think that's a big get for them. Help Grady Jarrett inside. And it was funny. I don't think I have the tweet up, but the Falcons have signed like, I think it was eight Bears free agents this offseason. I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's not like you're signing the Rams free agent.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm not sure that's the that's the model you want to be replicating.
One guy they didn't get though is Allen Robinson, who they could use.
Yeah,
right now.
Who is ironically on the Rams now.
Yeah. And then lastly, the Cowboys. They signed the first USFL guy. USFL Tampa Bay Bandits linebacker Christian Sam has been signed by the Dallas Cowboys. First guy to get signed.
Love it.
A bunch of other guys are having visits right now, getting interest, like we said with Chris Odom. But yeah, Christian Sam, first guy to get signed. I didn't know if you were heading out or not.
No, I'm good till 5:30.
Oh yeah, 5. I see. I was thinking Eastern. I'm not on that. I'm not on that.
The wavelength.
I'm not on that central vibe anymore. I've been on Eastern time the whole summer, bro.
Yeah. No, we're good, man. We're good. We're keeping rolling.
I'm heading back to Central though next week, or not next week, 2 weeks. Being nice. Kansas City.
Very nice.
But anyways, the FAA bets, FAA_bets. Got to go follow that account. We're putting out futures every Monday, leading up to the season. Put out our first 2 last week. Packers over 11 wins, Steelers over 7.5 wins, I think it was. And we got 2 more today that we put out on the Twitter sphere. The Texans over 4.5 wins. I'm going to try to remember what I wrote on the posts. And the Bears under 6.5 wins. So the Texans, you don't know as much as Chris and Mark do on my love for Davis Mills. I was the biggest Davis Mills fan last year, all year. And I think going into year 2, he's got an upgraded supporting cast with him. They signed Marlon Mack. They have Damian Pierce, who I know a lot of fantasy people are hyped about, especially players in dynasty leagues. I know I just drafted him in one of mine. They have Brandon Cooks back. John Mechie should help them out at some point this season, coming off the ACL injury in December. And yeah, I think they got some upgrades. Kenyon Green in the draft, AJ Cann they got from the Jags. So I think it's going to be an upgraded supporting cast, and Davis Mills was on fire the last month or 2 of the season, month and a half. So I think if he can continue to develop, Maybe, and they kept their offensive coaching staff. I believe Lovie Smith kept them all. So he has continuity in the coaching staff as well on offense.
Yep. Yeah. I love this. I love this bet. And it's really a tale of two different progressions and regressions in these two futures bets that you picked, because you have one team that did take the opportunity this offseason to surround their young second-year quarterback with a better supporting cast, and you have another team that didn't like at all.
Yeah, and I mean the Texans, the division, it's not like it's very easy, but I think the Colts and the Titans are more beatable than they have been in the last couple of seasons. The Titans especially, I think, are more beatable this year than they have been. And look, the Texans have the Bears, the Jags twice in their division. They have the Giants, the Commanders, and the Browns on their schedule, possibly without Deshaun Watson. More than likely, they're going to have Deshaun at that point. That's a December 4th game. So I think they'll have Deshaun. So maybe they lose that one. But still, with, playing Washington, playing the Giants, and the Jags twice, and the Bears, that's possibly 5 wins right there.
Yeah, I like it. The Texans feel like, for me, one of those teams where they're going to finish probably bottom 10 again, but they'll be one of those kind of trap game teams where it's like 1 week they'll beat someone and you're like, how did that team lose to the Texans?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned on the post as well. And the reasoning I mentioned, those 5 games that I meant that I said, and then add in an upset or 2 here or there, and that gets you to 6 or 7 wins.
Yep.
So. Okay, and then the Bears under 6.5. See, I know our guy Pat Dahl will hate this, but the Bears aren't going to be good.
No.
I have been a Justin Fields detractor ever since he left Ohio State and came to the NFL. Was absolutely terrible as a rookie. I don't remember who he played the one game, but he was holding the ball for like 9 seconds every time. He got sacked like 8 times.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, the Bears did the opposite of the Texans. They didn't get anything around him. They added one thing. They added Velus Jones Jr.
And Byron Pringle. Can't forget about Byron Pringle.
And yeah, they didn't do anything else on offense. Most of their draft and free agency was defense. So
and bringing in a defensive-minded head coach.
Right. So that, and they do have games that are winnable on the schedule. Like I said, the Texans game, but I think the Texans beat the Bears. The Giants, they play the Giants and Commanders as well. Obviously, they play the Lions twice. They play the Falcons, and they also play the Jets. So there is an opportunity where I could see the Bears make this bet lose and get 7 wins because of the amount of bad teams that they play. On the other hand, though, I don't necessarily think I think they could lose all those games too. I mean, I think the Lions are pretty sneaky this year. Jared Goff in year 2 in that offense. And we don't know what the Giants are going to look like with Brian Daboll as head coach. The Commanders have Carson Wentz now. So, yeah, I don't know. And the Falcons, we still have to see how Mariota is going to do in that offense. And the Jets, a lot of people like the Jets to improve this year. So,
yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think 6.5 wins is super generous, like a super generous line for the Bears, because for all the reasons you said, they just didn't get better and they weren't good to begin with. So
Yeah.
they did not do enough to surround Justin Fields. He has one of the worst supporting casts in the NFL, not just in terms of weapons, but in terms of O-line too, which is that they have an okay O-line, but for his style of play, they need a good O-line. And I liked Justin Fields coming out. I like his arm talent, his strength, his accuracy. But like you mentioned, he has a problem holding the ball. And if his guys can't get open, I mean, it's going to be another ugly year for him. And if he has 2 ugly years, like how can you hope to have him progress in any meaningful way?
Yeah.
So I think I had the Bears finishing like bottom 5 when I did my initial record predictions after the draft. And I'd still hold steady on that. I got into it on Twitter with the Bears fan the other day because I said that I firmly believe the Lions are going to overtake them for the 3rd spot in NFC North and potentially sweep them. And the guy said, we swept them last year. What makes you think that they're going to somehow sweep? And I'm like, you do realize like that the offseason, like some teams get better, right? Some teams don't. Like that's what happens. So the Lions did a lot to materially change their roster for the better. The Bears did not. And I think it's going to be a very tough year for Justin Fields and company.
And I think some Bears fans will also go the route of defending their team by saying, yeah, but we have a good defense. But do you know?
No.
We lost one of the best pass rushers in the league in Khalil Mack to a trade. Mm-hmm. The secondary is not that great. Eddie Jackson, the safeties are good. Eddie Jackson, and they got Jaquan Brisker in the draft, which I like. But they don't have great corners. The linebackers on both sides of Roquan Smith are suspect, to say the least.
At best, yeah.
And like I said, Khalil Mack, they replaced Khalil Mack with a guy who hasn't started an entire season in Al-Qadim Muhammad. He hasn't been a starter for a whole season.
And he's more of your like run-stopping edge setter than like a true pass rusher. And they lost Akeem Hicks, right? He's with the Bucs now.
Yeah.
So
Eddie Goldman gone now.
Yep. So yeah, it's just it's like they hit a full rebuild, which is fine, but like you also need to help out your young quarterback, and
and they don't have a number 1 wide receiver.
Right.
As much as Bears fans want to say Darnell Mooney is a number 1 wide receiver,
he's not yet. And I like Mooney, and I'm high on him because he's in my dynasty team. But as of right now, he's not. He's not close to a number 1.
All right. Hopefully we can speed through this NFC West preview so we can get your input on all 4 of the teams. But talking NFC West, here are some newcomers to the division. We have Bobby Wagner coming from the Seahawks. I guess not newcomer in the division, but he's one of the top Rams free agent signings. Bobby Wagner to the Rams. You have Charvarius Ward there in the Niners uniform on the bottom. You have Marquise Brown from Cardinals. And then you have Drew Lock with the Seahawks. So we're going to go in order of finish last year. So we're talking Rams first. Mark's Rams. And so re-signings, guys that they got to keep. Quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receiver Cooper Kupp, offensive tackle Joe Noteboom, center Brian Allen, and defensive tackle Aaron Donald. Free agent signings and trade acquisitions. Wide receiver Allen Robinson, linebacker Bobby Wagner, punter Riley Dixon, and then they also traded for corner Troy Hill from the Browns, who was a Ram before he went to Cleveland. Losses. The NFC West lost a lot when you look at all four teams aggregate.
Yeah.
A lot of big names that this division lost. Rams, though, running back Sony Michel, wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., who is still a free agent, rumored to be coming back to the Rams eventually. Wide receiver Robert Woods, who they traded to the Titans. Offensive tackle Andrew Whitworth, retired. Guard Austin Corbett. Defensive lineman Sebastian Joseph Day. That is one that I think will be a bigger issue than the Rams think.
Yep.
Linebacker Von Miller, corner Darius Williams, and punter Johnny Hecker.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the moves this fall?
Yeah, I just want to touch on again what you just mentioned about Sebastian Joseph Day. He is, yeah, he's staying in LA, reuniting.
Went across the building.
Yep, yeah. He can walk there. He's gonna walk. The whole defensive structure for the Rams is to create as much havoc up front to free up Aaron Donald in one-on-one situations, so that they can't just manufacture easy double teams on him. In order to do that, you need to have versatile big man up front who can move laterally along the line, do stunts, games, and twists, to create that confusion so that Aaron Donald can be himself. And Sebastian Joseph Day was that for the Rams, did it very proficiently, was a stalwart on that D-line for them. And like you said, I think that's going to end up being a bigger loss than what they think. Another guy who he feels like the forgotten man is Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. Before he got hurt, I think people have forgotten like how important he was to that offense. And I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp stepped up and had, a phenomenal season, one of the best in NFL history, if you really want to call it that. But they kind of 1-for-1 replaced Robert Woods with Allen Robinson. And honestly, with how A-Rob played last year, the last couple seasons, you're not sure yet whether that is really an upgrade. If Robert Woods comes back healthy and can be that decent player he was before he got hurt. And then another big guy I'd put on two more other guys is Darius Williams, cornerback. He's a smaller guy, but he was a perfect scheme fit for them. Yep. And Andrew Whitworth. You can't replace that kind of leadership. You just can't. And maybe, I'm sure, he'll keep those connections with the team and some of those relationships, but not having them in the locker room, in games, on that line, it's a big loss. It is. So I like the Rams to still be very good this year, but I think not enough people are talking about how much they did lose this offseason.
Yeah, I think the Von Miller thing was weird too. They didn't replace him. They have listed on ESPN right now Justin Hollins as the opposite to Leonard Floyd. So will they have that third pass rusher?
Right.
Outside of Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd.
Right. And again, that's another guy that you lose to help free up Donald. So
yeah. Okay. Looking at their schedule, I have them going 10-7. I think it's a much tougher year, especially for who they play. They play the AFC West and the NFC South. So while the NFC South might not scare many people, in the public's view anyways, I think both the Saints and Bucks are going to be very good. But anyway, starting off week 1, I have them losing the Thursday night football kickoff in LA to Buffalo. Von Miller is going to sack Matthew Stafford at least once. And yeah, they're going to lose to Buffalo week 1. I have them beating the Falcons at home week 2. Week 3 at the Cardinals, I have that as a win. I have them losing in San Francisco Monday Night Football week 4. Then I have 2 wins before the bye: home against the Cowboys, home against the Panthers. By week 7, I have them winning at home against the Niners in week 8, losing at Tampa, winning against the Cardinals. So they sweep the Cardinals. They split with the Niners. They sweep the Seahawks. They lose at New Orleans. They lose at Kansas City. They beat the Seahawks at home. They beat the Raiders on Thursday Night Football. They lose in Green Bay on Monday Night Football. They beat the Broncos at home, and then they lose to the Chargers in LA because they're both in LA. That's a Sunday night game. They lose to the Chargers. The Rams are the away team in that game. And then they beat the Seahawks in Seattle week 18. 10-7 for me.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm just looking back to my predictions that I put out a couple weeks after the draft, and I am in agreement with you. 10-7. I don't remember exactly which games I have them winning or losing, but I do have them in that 10-7 range, and part of that is because their schedule is tough, and it's going to be tough when you play in a pretty tough division. So 10-7, I still think that they might be better than that record, and still be able to make some noise in the playoffs, but that's where I have them as well.
Yeah, so I always star games that I think are big, or could be flip-flop. All primetime games are always, or special games are always starred. So the first one I have starred is the first game. I mean, that is going to be a massive game for both teams. I just think the Bills are better.
Yeah, the Bills are going to be a problem this year. Yeah,
that's why they're the Super Bowl favorites. I think they are right now. Week 3, I have weeks 3, 4, and 5 all starred. Week 3 is starred because I think that could be a flip. That could possibly be a loss. It's in Arizona early on, week 3. They're coming off a cupcake against the Falcons. Watch, the Falcons are going to beat them in week 2.
There's always like that early, like weeks 1 through 3, where you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, but I just don't think the Cardinals are going to be up to speed. New pieces that they have on offense. No DeAndre Hopkins for that game either. So I think the Rams can get that one done in Arizona. Week 4, Monday Night Football at San Francisco. I have that as a loss. Again, it's an early season game, division game. I just think the Niners in San Fran is going to be too much. So that one. And then another one that I could see as a loss, even though I have it as a win, is week 5 against the Cowboys. I'm not exactly sure how the Cowboys are going to be yet, but we'll talk about that when we do our NFC East preview. But yeah, I think that's a flip-flop game. It's going to be a very good one. Next one I have is week 9 at the Bucs. That's a major game. I had that as a loss. 2 other away games that I have as losses in the Superdome in New Orleans and at Arrowhead and Kansas City. Both losses in my mind. The Saints one is a closer one, but I am believing in the Jameis Winston hype, and if not that, I believe in the Saints defense a lot. And then Kansas City, it's Mahomes.
Yeah.
So, and then I have weeks 14, 15, 16. The Rams are the most starred I have. 14, 15, 16, 17. I have all starred.
Yeah.
14 is a Thursday night game. Have that as a win against the Raiders. Could be close. Week 15 is also another primetime Monday night in Green Bay. Maybe we'll go to that one.
Yeah, make the trip.
Tickets will be astronomical. And plus, that's more than likely finals.
Yeah.
Week 15. Actually, I have the date right here. It's oh no, no, that's a Monday night. It'd probably be the Monday after finals.
Hey,
It's December 19th. Or
maybe.
actually, it might be the week after. Like a week and a half after. I don't know.
See if we can't get a Moles sponsored.
Can they give us a
Post-final.
stipend to get?
Yeah, post-finals retreat.
But yeah, that one I had that one start as a big game in the prime time. Week 16, the Broncos. I have them beating Russell Wilson. I have them beating Russell Wilson in LA. Another massive game. I think I might have starred all. Yeah, I did. I starred all 4 AFC West games.
Yeah, no, honestly, that makes sense.
And then week 17 at the Chargers. That's a Sunday nighter. They go 3 out of 4 on prime time. Thursday night, Monday night. They have the Broncos game is a 4:30 Eastern on Christmas Day. Christmas Day game. And then because it's Christmas on Sunday this year. And then they go Sunday night against the Chargers. That is a loss. That's where they are technically the away team, but they'll have more fans than the Chargers.
Yeah. And I think people listen to this. Some people listen to this are like, like they're the reigning Super Bowl champs. How do you have them at 10-7? Well, it's just exactly how you laid out. There are so many games on their schedule where it's like, okay, flip a coin. Whoever is healthiest that week has the advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have them going 2-2 against the AFC West, losing to the Chargers and the Chiefs, beating the Broncos and Raiders. And going 1, 2, 3. I have them going 1-4 in their primetime games. That's how it goes. Fantasy wise for the Rams, we're looking at Matthew Stafford. Matty Stafford, I'm not sure. He was one of my big sleepers last year. I loved him last year. People are going to overdraft him this year. I can already see it. One season was enough for me. I'm gonna draft him like I normally would, like I did last year. You can get him. I mean, last year you could get him between in the normal quarterback range, like 7 through 10.
Yep.
Round 7 through 10. This year, people are probably gonna draft him in the freaking 3rd and 4th round.
Yeah. It all depends on the ADP. Just be smart. I'm not big on drafting QBs high, anyways. Just period. Because, like you said, you can find those guys in the back rounds that can have a career year, like Stafford did.
Yeah, my 2 guys historically were always I would get Phillip Rivers and Big Ben late, and they would they'd be fine. They'd be good guys that you could play.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers would average like 400 yards,
and they still lose.
Yep.
But you get a win in fantasy because he did.
Right, exactly.
Running backs, we got Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson Jr. I think I really like Cam Akers. I don't know if anyone is going to be scared off his playoff performance because he wasn't that great coming back off the Achilles in the playoffs. But yeah, I actually really like Cam Akers, and I think you could draft him. I don't know what his ADP is, but I would probably look at him possibly in the 2nd round.
Yeah. I like him as a high-end RB2 because I think what was more telling for me than his playoff appearance was his playoff usage. It was like the minute he came back, like they like dropped Darrell Henderson, and they gave him like a lot of the workload. So you really don't have to worry, I don't think, about his usage. I think he'll be coming back healthy. He's kind of the workhorse guy, and usage is one of the biggest things in fantasy that you can use to your advantage. So I'm also high on Cam Akers.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because at the beginning of the season last year, we weren't sure which guy was gonna get the ball.
Yep.
Akers goes down. Darrell Henderson gets a lot. He went down. We had some other guys in there. Wide receivers, 3 guys: Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson. Again, people like Matthew Stafford, they're gonna overvalue Kupp. Historically, we've seen it. You have a career year, a freaking all-world year, you're going to go back down. Now, I don't know how far he's going to go back down, but people are going to, I'm telling you, they're going to draft him like number 3 overall. Yeah. And
I think
not going to have that value.
The last time I checked, I think ESPN has him second. Second overall. Yeah. I'd still feel comfortable taking him in the first, but like back end. Like I don't think I'm spending a top 5 pick.
Right. And it's like, I love Cooper Kupp, but the thing is with that regression, like I talked about, and also we haven't seen, it's not like an AJ Brown. It's not like I don't know, other top receivers, where you've seen it consistently over 3 or 4 years where he's going to get a bare minimum of like 1,000 yards and like 7 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen that in the longevity of Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
To that point yet.
Yeah. You're drafting him that high. You're betting on the connection between him and Stafford, which again, like you said, we only have a 1-year sample size of that. So there is still some risk attached to that.
Allen Robinson, though, I don't know what to think of Allen Robinson. It's a big question mark.
That's kind of been him the last 2 years, right? Is like, what do we do with him now? Right now, where his ADP is, I kind of like it. He's going in later rounds, and considering that he's slated to be the number 2 option on a really good offense, like I like that value. I like where it is right now. But if that starts to change, he starts to become overvalued. Again, it's a big risk because we could be talking about a guy who just doesn't have it anymore. I don't believe that. But I mean, his last 2 seasons have been bad. So
yeah, I'm not drafting him unless there's no one else there at that point. Mm-hmm. Van Jefferson, I don't think at one point he looked like he was gonna be like the next up and coming thing for LA, but has fallen off to the wayside a little bit. Yeah. Tight end Tyler Higbee. He's another one where I'm like, I don't know. We'll have to see where he's at in our when we do our fantasy rankings by position later, closer to the season. But he's another guy. I mean, I have him on one of my dynasty leagues. He's my backup to Travis Kelce. Backup, but just like, I don't know. He's gonna get all the tight end stuff because Kendall Bland is his backup. So.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and the issue is that even though he's tight end 1 clearly for them, they don't use tight ends a lot in the offense. So
I feel like he's a touchdown dependent guy.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then the Rams defense. We talked about the guys they lost: Von Miller, Darius Williams, Sebastian Joseph Day.
Yeah. Fading their defense for sure.
Yeah. I still think bare minimum their league average, middle. fringe
Yeah.
starter.
Yeah.
Okay. The Cardinals re-signings: quarterback Colt McCoy, running back James Conner, wide receiver AJ Green, tight end Zach Ertz, tight end Max Williams, linebacker Dennis Gardeck. Had to throw him in there. I love Gardeck. Free agent signings, trade acquisitions: running back Darrell Williams, guard Will Hernandez, linebacker Nick Vigil, punter Andy Lee, long snapper Aaron Brewer. Yes, I put the long snapper on there. And they traded for wide receiver Marquise Brown. Losses: running back Chase Edmonds, wide receiver Christian Kirk, offensive lineman Max Garcia, defensive tackle Corey Peters, defensive lineman Jordan Phillips, linebacker Jordan Hicks, linebacker Chandler Jones, and corners Robert Alford and Malcolm Butler. A lot of losses on the defense.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of losses. And, it's tough for a team that didn't get over the hump last year. They felt like they needed a couple pieces to kind of get over that hump, be competitive, and instead they lost quite a bit. And the Cardinals are actually one of those teams. I have a galaxy brain hypothetical theory, if you will. I have the Cardinals imploding this year. I have them. My win-loss record for them right now is let me pull it up. 7-10. I have them at 7-10. I have Cliff gone. I have Steve Keim gone, even though he's the longest tenured general manager, right? And I have him launching a full rebuild, which could potentially be trading Kyler Murray for some picks on his last year of his rookie deal. It just doesn't. They have an air raid system that doesn't have any weapons. D-Hop is gone for 6 games. I like Marquise Brown's fit in this system.
Mm-hmm.
But as much as we made fun of the Jaguars for signing Christian Kirk to that mega deal, Christian Kirk was a big part of this offense who isn't there anymore. And yeah, that
the perfect number 2.
Right. So yeah, there's just so many question marks. Tough schedule again. Losing Chandler Jones. I mean, they have JJ Watt as their whole defensive line.
I forgot to mention with the Rams, fantasy wise, we're doing rookies in a separate category for fantasy. Running back Kyron Williams as well. But he has a broken foot. I believe they said he should be back for training camp.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was drafted to be the PPR stud pass catcher out of the backfield. So we'll see if he can get enough reps in training camp to be a dynasty stash potentially. I don't like him, but
no. Yeah, I wouldn't. Honestly, I think there are better stashes. He just didn't test well, at all. Very slow, and that just doesn't fit at that position.
Yeah, as far as the Cardinals, I liked the AJ Green re-signing was interesting to say the least. I did like they got sort of replacement for Chase Edmonds and Darrell Williams. But yeah, I like the Marquise Brown thing, not just because he's on my dynasty team, but the connection. We'll talk about it in fantasy. The connection between him and Murray should be very good. Yeah, Chandler Jones it's a big one. Seattle wise, I'm with you though. I have the Cardinals 8-9. Week 1, lose to the Chiefs. Week 2 at the Raiders. The Chiefs one's in Arizona. their almost whole schedule is back and forth.
Yeah.
At the Raiders week 2, that's a win. Shocking win, but a win. I have them losing to the Rams at home, beating the Panthers in Carolina, losing to the Eagles at home, beating Seattle in Seattle, beating the Saints at home. That's a Thursday night game. At the Vikings, that's a win. Home against the Seahawks, that is a win. At the Rams, it's a loss. Home against the Niners, that is a win. That is a Monday night game in Mexico City. So it's technically a home game for Arizona, but they're neutral site. Home against the Chargers, it's a loss. They have a very, very late bye, week 13. Home against the Patriots on Monday night, that's a loss. At the Broncos, that's a loss. Home against the Bucks Sunday night, loss. At the Falcons, week 17, that's a win. At the Niners, week 18, that is a loss. 8 and 9 for me. I have 7 starred games here. At the Raiders, week 2. Like I said, that's probably a shock to a lot of people. The Cardinals can beat the Raiders in Vegas week 2. And I just said about how it's an early game. The Rams will beat them in Arizona. But yeah, I think that's an early one. I think the Cardinals will sneak up on the Raiders and get them in Vegas.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a away game, but it's a short little hop.
Week 5, another one that people may be surprised about. The Eagles. That's me being a homer for one. But for 2, I really like my Eagles this year. So
no, I agree with it. Yep.
Even though they had to travel all the way out there. Week 7, that's a primetime Thursday night game. Another one that I think it could be a loss. I mentioned how much I like the Saints, but I have the Cardinals beating them in Arizona. Thursday night game though. So week 8 at the Vikings, I think that could be a loss. I have it as a win, but I think it could be a loss. I think the Vikings could sneak up on them while they're at home. Cards coming up to Minneapolis. I think Vikings might get them. The Mexico City game, week 11 against the Niners. I have that as a win. I don't know. I just put that as a win. I am not completely sure about that one. Patriots lost Monday night. That's another home loss that I have them taking. But I think the Patriots will get them. I think the Patriots will run the ball.
Yep.
I don't think the Cardinals defense will be ready for the run game. It's a late game, week 14. So Patriots run game should be settled by then. So
yeah, I think that's one of those games where it's like it's not about like which team's roster is maybe better. It's about scheme, like what team matches up against them better. And yeah, like you said, like I think the Patriots will run over them.
And then last one I have starred week 16. That's a Sunday nighter against the Bucks. That's a loss. Tom Brady will beat them. So yeah, I have them 2-2 in their primetime games, and many of their losses actually. Do I have 2? Yeah, I only have them winning 2 games at home this season.
Yeah.
Technically 3 because they're the home team in the Mexico City game. But yeah, 8 and 9 for me though. So you said 7 and 10, right?
Yep. So we're in lockstep on that one too.
All right, moving into fantasy here. Quarterback Kyler Murray. I have never been high on Kyler.
Yeah.
I'm not drafting it. I'm not doing it. Not with no Hopkins.
Yeah, it's you do worry about the size a little bit because his splits like pre-October or like pre-November and post-November are like insane. like weeks 1 through 8, he'll be an MVP contender, and like he'll like disappear. So
Yeah, if you're drafting him, trade him before your league's trade deadline for a lot, and make sure you
Right.
draft the backup.
Right. And I mean, the value just isn't there either. Like the ADP for him, like you said, it's like QB like 5 or something, like QB 5 or 6. And that's just, I'd rather wait and get QB like 10.
Yeah. I think I did rank him as QB4 last year or something like that, though. So
I was high on him last year.
I believe it was last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But after the deer in the headlights in the playoffs, I don't know. Okay, running backs: James Conner, Darrell Williams. I think it's the same thing though. Every year, the guys that don't really pay attention to the off season or don't really pay as close attention to the league as some other people, they'll be like, yeah, bro, but he like scored 10 touchdowns last year. Like, yeah, but that was last year.
Yeah.
You're not going to score 10 touchdowns as a running back every year.
Yep.
So,
well,
yeah.
That screams touchdown dependence to me.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see, because I think we'll see Connor get a lot more workload. And that scares me though, because we saw what happened to him in Pittsburgh when he got that big of a workload. He couldn't stay on the field.
Yep.
So they signed Darrell Williams. I definitely, if you're drafting James Conner, you better be drafting the handcuff in Darrell Williams. Or the rookie, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I want to see how they use that, how they're going to split the workload between him and Williams.
Yeah. I mean, I expect Connor to get like the workhorse role, which is why he's getting so much fantasy hype right now and why his current ADP is so high. But I am cautious just because, again, he just has not found consistency at any point in his career, really. So,
okay, wide receivers: DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, AJ Green, Rondale Moore. So Hopkins, what is his value missing 6 games?
So right now, I love his value because right now, at least on ESPN, I've been doing a few mock drafts here and there when I'm bored, just so I can start gauging a feel of where, the consensus is on him. They got him. You can get him in like the 12th round right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are forgetting like who DeAndre Hopkins is. Like, healthy D-Hop is a top 5 wide receiver in the league. Now he's older, and the PED thing scares me kind of. But like at that point, it's completely worth the flyer, in my opinion. You wait the 6 weeks out, and then see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, in some leagues, I know in leagues that I run, you can put suspended players on the IR. So if you have a league like that, extra incentive, you can draft him and then pick up some other player at the wide receiver position in free agency afterwards.
Yep.
But yeah, I like him. So in a normal season, he'll score what, like 240, 250 points. So you're looking at only 11 games. I don't know. You're still probably going to end up maybe with 190 on the season. 175 to 190, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's good value for a guy you get like right now. Like you can get him in the 12th round.
Yeah. Marquise Brown. Okay, here we go. Marquise Brown, I love him. He is going to be one of the guys that you're going to be able to get in the mid rounds. and going to be a superstar, especially the first 6 weeks when he's getting all the attention from Kyler Murray. Yeah, I love the situation. The Oklahoma connection between those two should work, I think. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. As much as I disliked the trade from a pure football perspective, because I didn't think the value was a first-round pick for Marquise Brown, I love the fantasy connection for all the reasons you just mentioned. His pre-existing chemistry with Kyler Murray, his scheme fit within that system. I think he's a way better fit in that system than he was in Baltimore. Like small guy and like a power option like system.
Yeah.
Didn't really work out well. And I mean, but he did have a pretty good year last year in Baltimore. So if he can keep that progression up in a better fit, like, yeah, I love where he is right now in fantasy.
AJ Green, now the third wide receiver when Hopkins comes back. Does he have any flyer value early on in the season, those 6 games?
Not for me. I don't think like there are other flyers I'd rather use. Maybe he'd be a good like free agent pickup, like for like a week or two, like if they're playing like a cupcake and you need a guy to get you like 10 to 12 points.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking to roster him long term.
Yeah. I think if you're seeing him late in your draft and you're like, there's not really anyone else that's like a wide receiver 2 on their roster. Might as well. He's going to be a wide receiver 3 on that roster eventually. But for 6 weeks, you're going to get wide receiver 2 usage out of him. So, and then Rondale Moore. The only reason I put Rondale Moore on here, first off, he was a former 2nd-round pick. Second off, is he still dynasty relevant or not? Because I don't think he is.
This is a very personal question for me because I have him currently on my dynasty roster. I was very high on Rondale Moore coming out because of, even though he had a small frame, he had a lot of strength in his lower body. Pound for pound, he's one of those dudes who's just kind of like a freak of nature, like Austin Eckler. But the historical hit rate for guys his size is just not there, 1. And 2, if you like look at his route tree, like his average depth of target is like it's like nothing. Like they only use them on like swings out of the backfield, like screens. He has like no vertical route tree.
Yeah.
So those are 2 huge things that are limiting him. So yeah, I mean, I just don't. I'd say like me personally right now, I'm not getting rid of him right now because his value is like nothing, next to nothing right now. And I mean, he is only going into his 2nd year, so there's still time. But yeah, it doesn't look great. If
they wouldn't have traded for Marquise Brown, I would have said yeah. Like get Rondale Moore in your dynasty league if you can. If he's a free agent. Tight end Zach Ertz. Yeah, he's old now. And it was a weird trade. It was a weird trade even at the time. I mean, because we saw the Cardinals not use the tight end, and now they have another receiver in Brown. Yeah. It's like that's what I hate about Zach Ertz in fantasy is like, bro, when he was the Eagles, bona fide top 5 tight end numbers.
Yep.
Cardinals, you're hoping for tight end 2 numbers.
Yeah.
But he's touchdown dependent too. So
yeah. And I mean, I would be high on him if they didn't take McBride in the 2nd. Like
yeah. Cardinals defense. bottom third of
Yeah, no. Just don't even touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we really haven't talked about special teams for either team either, because I don't think either the Rams nor the Cardinals have very good
Yeah.
return ability. So, rookies. So I'm a flip flop them because you already mentioned tight end Trey McBride. He's going relatively high. I think he's going in the second round. He's the number one tight end drafted in rookie drafts right now, I believe.
For sure. Yeah.
It was a weird draft pick for me, and I'm not drafting him because, for one, all my dynasty teams have stacked tight end rooms already. But yeah, McBride though, well, you were already talking about him, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think his value is if you're in like a tight end premium league in like dynasty, then I think his value is pretty high. I mean, like a late second, I'd feel comfortable with taking a flyer on, especially if you're tight end needy. Yeah, but like you said, like the fit, I just don't love. And tight ends take so long to develop,
Right.
anyways. So, yeah.
And the last rookie here is a guy I love, running back Keontae Ingram. I love the situation because I mentioned James Conner getting the bulk of the carries. More than likely won't be able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Darrell Williams was a fill-in in Kansas City, had great numbers. I was shocked when I saw, because I have him on one of my teams, and I can't move him or anything, right? Drop him if I wanted to, or I could trade him, but I don't want to do that right now. But he had like what was it? Like 100 and I don't remember how much it was. He had over 100. He had like 160 fantasy points last year. I was like, dang, dude. Like, I did not know Darrell Williams had that many fantasy points in Kansas City. But yeah, I like drafting Ingram late second if you can get him in the third round of your dynasty league. Hell, he might even go undrafted in some leagues. But yeah, I like Ingram.
Yeah, this is a guy that I would take a flyer on. I like taking a flyer on him more than I do. Why can't I remember his name? Kyron Williams. Just because I think he is a good fit with the Cardinals. There's a vacancy left by Chase Edmonds, which might be filled by Darrell Williams, might be filled by Keontae Ingram. It depends on which one plays better. So yeah, I do like, he's one of my sleeper guys. Like if you want a flyer, if you want to get a little fancy and fresh, take a look at Keontae Ingram.
Okay, are you heading out now?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bounce here. I'll let you finish up with our final two teams.
Before you go though, give us your records for the Niners and Seahawks.
Sure. So the Niners, I believe I have them at 10-7. Let me see. Oh, I actually have them at 11-6. So I have them winning the division.
Oh.
Quick hitter. I think that the Trey Lance saga has become a little overblown. Like I still think he's going to be very good in Shanahan's system. I think he'll be better than Jimmy G. I think he'll play well next year. So I have him at 11-6, winning the division. Seahawks. Oof. I have Seattle. I have them going 2-15. I just don't like. There's just nothing to get excited about. Like Geno Smith's the starting quarterback.
Or Drew Lock.
Yeah. And I'm just not sure which one's better. I got into it on Twitter with a Seahawks fan who was actually delusional enough to think that like Geno Smith was going to be better this year because he was getting like the starter reps. Like he didn't have Russell Wilson his way anymore, so he's going to like pop off. Like they're just not going to be good. So I have them at 2-15. Good news is they'll be in play for CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Tank for Bryce, 2023.
Break for Bryce.
Yes. Yeah. All right, dude. I'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So I will finish up the Niners and Seahawks here. So San Francisco, re-signings wise, running back to Michael Hasty, running back Jeff Wilson, tight end Ross Dwelly, defensive tackle Maurice Hurst, and then 3 corners, Darquez Dennard, Dante Johnson, Jason Verrett, all re-signed there. I think the Jason Verrett thing was massive for them to get him back. The rest of the guys are so. They also, in free agency, they did not have any trade acquisitions, but free agency, they signed wide receiver Ray McLeod, tight end Tyler Kroft, defensive end Kerry Hyder Jr., defensive end Kamoko Toure, defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway, linebacker Oren Burks, corner Travarius Ward, and safety George Odom. Love the Travarius Ward thing. He was a star in KC. Should be very good. It was a big area of need for them, was the defensive backfield and the corner position specifically. So I think they got a lot better there. Ray McLeod should help their return game. We'll talk about that more when we talk about fantasy. Hyder coming back to San Fran after a season hiatus in Seattle. Toure, I think, was going to be underrated. Him and Ridgeway, I think, are going to be very underrated additions for the 49ers this season in their defensive line rotation. Yeah, they have Toure as 4th string. I don't think – I mean, they're stacked at the defensive end position right now, but yeah, Hassan Ridgeway, the main backup to Javon Kinlaw. Losses, massive losses for the Niners. Running back Raheem Mostert, wide receiver Travis Benjamin, wide receiver Richie James Jr., wide receiver Mohamed Sanu, and wide receiver Trent Sherfield. Guard Laken Tomlinson, center Alex Mack, he retired. Offensive lineman Tom Compton, defensive end Arden Key, D tackle DJ Jones. That is a big one. Big loss was DJ Jones in the middle there. Hoping Hassan Ridgeway will be a fill-in for him. Defensive tackle Kentavious Street, corners Josh Norman and Kayvon Williams, and then safety Jaquiski Tart. Was also a big loss. I thought they filled his spot with George Odom. I think the Niners lost more than they gained, to be honest. So we'll see how that pans out. But for my record, I'm lower than Logan was on Trey Lance and the Niners. I have him 9-8, finishing second in the division. Rams first, Niners second, Cardinals third, Seahawks fourth. 9-8 for San Francisco. Week 1 at the Bears, that's a win. Week 2 again home against the Seahawks, that's a win. Week 3 at the Broncos, Sunday nighter, that is a loss. Week 4 home against the Rams, Monday night, that's a win. Week 5 at the Panthers, that is a win. They win in Atlanta. Week 6, week 7, home against the Chiefs, that's a loss. They lose at the Rams. Week 8, week 9 is a bye. And then they go Sunday night, Monday night, back-to-back again. Week 10 against the Chargers on Sunday night, that is a loss. They lose at the Cardinals on Monday night in Mexico City, week 11. Week 12, they lose at home against the Saints, lose at home against the Dolphins, lose at home against the Bucks, and then they go 4 straight wins to end the season at the Seahawks on Thursday night, home against the Commanders, at the Raiders, and home against the Cardinals, finishing 9-8. Starred games for me, I have a bunch on their schedule. Week 3 at the Broncos Sunday night. That's a loss. They lose to Russell Wilson. Think the Broncos are going to be too good in Denver on Sunday night early in the season for Trey Lance. Defense should stifle him. Week 4 against the Rams. That's a Monday nighter. They get that win there early on in the season again last week in September. Should be fine there. Week 8, their second game at the Rams. That is a loss right before the bye. That's why I started. Not good going into the bye with 2 losses, but you're still going to be, I have them going into the bye at 5-3. So they're going to be right there. Coming out of the bye, week 10, Sunday night game against the Chargers. I have them losing 5 straight. So you go into the bye at 5-3. I have them coming out of the bye losing 5 straight with a gauntlet home against the Chargers Sunday night game, at the Cardinals, Mexico City on Monday night, home against the Saints, home against the Dolphins, home against the Bucks. I mean, they're at home for 4 of those 5, but they lose because it's just a gauntlet of teams. Chargers, Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Bucks. Very good teams there. Week 11, like I said, at the Cardinals, Monday night, Mexico City. That is a loss. Week 13, the Dolphins ones probably surprised a lot of people. I am high on the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins this year. I think they are going to do very well under head coach Mike McDaniel. So yes, I like the Dolphins. Upgraded supporting cast for Tua Tagovailoa. They beat San Francisco in San Francisco week 13. Week 15 at the Seahawks. That's a win on Thursday Night Football. The only reason it started is because it's a prime time. Week 17 at the Raiders. Big game there. They beat Vegas in Vegas. Probably propels them to a playoff spot. And then week 18, this could be the make or break game for these 2 teams, 9-8, 8-9. I think 9-8 gets you into the AFC playoffs this year as a 7 seed. So it's a massive game at the end of the year. I think the Niners and Cardinals are going to be 2 teams that are going to be fighting for that last spot in the playoffs. And I have the Niners taking it at home against Arizona. Fantasy-wise, quarterbacks, I have both listed, Trey Lance and Jimmy G. Reason why, Trey Lance, yes. People are going to be very high on him. I'm not a Trey Lance guy. I'm not a Trey Lance guy, just like I'm not a Justin Fields guy. I'm just not. I just don't like those quarterbacks. That's just how it is. So I'm not drafting Trey Lance. I'm not drafting Jimmy Garoppolo either. But what I am telling you is if you're drafting Trey Lance, you should take a flyer on Jimmy G late, depending on when your draft is and depending on if he's traded or not by then. Running backs, Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., Trey Sermon. Elijah Mitchell, I do like. I think he's going to get the workload for San Fran. You're hoping that Debo doesn't take some of those carries away like he did a lot last year. But I like Elijah Mitchell. He's probably going to be more of an RB2 for me, though. He's not an RB1 in my book. Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon's fallen off the wagon, 3rd-round pick 2 years ago. He just has not worked out so far. Jeff Wilson has been a plug-and-play guy whenever injuries have struck the Niners running back room. We'll see if that happens again this year, but he's always a streaming option if you need it. Wide receivers, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. I'm not that high on this wide receiver room. Debo, yes. It's just people are going to overdraft him, and I am not going to be one of those people. If I can get him at good value, I will draft Debo Samuel. The quarterback situation scares me with an unproven Trey Lance. The contract situation scares me. Will he play or not? Will he be ready to play if he holds out, which I think he will, because he still wants to be traded. So if it's good value, I would say draft Debo. If not, if it's too high and you're there, and I would say don't take it. Don't overdraft it. Ayuk, he's a weird one. Can go up, can go down. So I don't like Brandon Ayuk. I would say wide receiver 3 at best. And then Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings, I would say if he is a free agent in your dynasty league, or if there's not very many options in free agency after your draft, I don't think Jawan Jennings is going to get drafted in most leagues. So I would say pick him up as an undrafted free agent if you can get him, and you have a roster spot. Tight ends, George Kittle, Tyler Kroft. George Kittle, monster. He's going to be top 2 or 3 tight end every single season with Travis Kelce. So yeah, draft him. Don't overdraft him. Don't draft him in the first round. Don't draft any tight end in the first round. It's not worth it. I don't care how many teams you have in your league. Do not draft a tight end in your first round. Don't do it. But yeah, George Kittle, he will be good. Draft him in the second round, or the third round if you can get him there. But yeah, second round is where you should draft George Kittle. Tyler Kroft is interesting, but not interesting enough to draft or roster. And then the Niners defense. I think I like the Niners defense the most out of all 4 of the defenses in the division. Look, you got pass rushers, Bosa, Armstead, Kinlaw, Ford. They have a litany of backups at the defensive end: Hyder, Jackson, Ibukum, Willis, Teray. Their defensive line rotation is just out of this world. Linebackers, I like Greenlaw, Warner, Al-Shaair. And then they have Burks, who they signed as a backup. And then the corner, they got a lot better in the secondary. Ward and Odom come in free agency. They have Jimmy Ward, the other Ward, Jimmy Ward as well. Mosley they like. Verrett, Hufanga is another safety that they have. Ambry Thomas, who was great as an undrafted free agent last year. They have some good corner depth, so I think I like the Niners. I think they're going to end up maybe even pushing for a top 10 defense in fantasy this year. And then rookies wise, running back Tyrion Davis-Price. So I mentioned Jeff Wilson Jr., Trey Sermon. Davis-Price could push. He is listed above Trey Sermon right now as a third running back. I think he could end up as the second running back if he progresses well enough. Jeff Wilson, I think they do really like Wilson's value as the backup to Mitchell right now. But we'll have to see how Davis-Price progresses in training camp and whatnot. But I think he's definitely a guy that you can draft in Dynasty. Wide receiver Danny Gray, not that great. He is listed as 4th on the receiver depth chart, though. I'm not really high on Danny Gray at SMU, but he does have an opportunity as the 4th wide receiver. Injuries could occur. Ayuk has had injuries before. Samuel has had injuries before. So I think there are opportunities, but I would say leave Danny Gray alone right now. And then the last rookie, quarterback Brock Purdy, you're not touching him. No chance. No chance. There's no reason you should have Brock Purdy on your roster. Okay, the Seahawks. This is a fun one. Seahawks re-signings. Geno Smith, quarterback Geno Smith, running back Rashad Penny. Tight end Will Dissly. Defensive tackle Al Woods. Corner Sidney Jones. Safety Quandre Diggs. Free agent signings, trade acquisitions. Wide receiver Marquise Goodwin. Center Austin Blythe. Defensive tackle Quentin Jefferson. Linebacker Uchenna Nwosu. Corner Justin Coleman. And then they traded in the Russell Wilson trade. They got quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive tackle Shelby Harris. In terms of acquisitions, I do really like Noah Fant. He has to stay healthy. Shelby Harris was, I think, the biggest get in that trade for them, other than the draft picks. But yeah, Shelby Harris, I think, was a fantastic acquisition in that trade. I think he's going to shore up the interior of the defensive line for them and give great leadership in that locker room. I like the Austin Blythe signing. Quentin Jefferson's going to pair with Shelby Harris. So that should be a formidable duo in the middle there. Uchenna Nwosu's a guy that is under the radar at the outside linebacker position. And then re-signing Quandre Diggs, I like that move. The Rashad Penny thing, I think they got good value there with a guy that went off in the last month and a half of the season. Losses, though. They traded away quarterback Russell Wilson, probably the greatest Seahawk of all time. Running back Alex Collins, running back Adrian Peterson, tight end Gerald Everett, offensive lineman DeMarco Jones, offensive tackle Dwayne Brown, who's a free agent, but now facing legal trouble with the concealed gun charge. Offensive tackle Brandon Shell, guard Ethan Pochik, who I think is a massive loss on the interior offensive line there. Defensive end Carlos Dunlap, he is a free agent still. They should re-sign him. Defensive end Rasheem Green, defensive end Kerry Hyder Jr., linebacker Bobby Wagner, and corner DJ Reed. So yeah, obviously Russell Wilson. They weren't winning with Russell Wilson. They went 7-10 with him last year, so it made sense to trade him. He didn't want to be there anymore. Pete Carroll won the quintessential power struggle, if you will. Made sense to trade him, though, for the value that they could get at this point in his career. Gerald Everett, they replaced with Noah Fant. And like I said, I think two big ones were Pochik. That was a massive one, I thought, to lose him in free agency. They got Gabe Jackson, Damian Lewis there as the guards right now. They also have not re-signed defensive end Carlos Dunlap. I think they need to do that. He was great for them last year in his first full season in Seattle after coming over from Cincy in 2020 midseason. So they should sign Carlos Dunlap if they can get him at a reasonable price. But they have some young guys that they like: Boye Mafe, Darrell Taylor, Uchenna Nwosu, Tyreek Smith, LJ Collier, and Co there. Okay, record-wise, I have Seattle going 4-13, so I'm a little higher than Logan's 2-15, but 4-13 still going to probably be in that conversation for the number one pick next season. Week 1 against the Broncos, Monday night loss. At the Niners, loss. They win against the Falcons. They win at the Lions. They lose at the Saints. Lose to the Cardinals. Lose at the Chargers. They beat the Giants at home. They lose at the Cardinals. I have them getting swept in the division 0-6. They lose at the Bucs. That's the game in Munich, Germany. I feel bad for the Seahawks. They're going to have to travel all that way to go to Germany to get pelted by Tom Brady. They lose against the Raiders after their Week 11 bye. Week 13 at the Rams, that's a loss. They lose to the Panthers at home. They lose to the Niners at home on Thursday night. They lose at the Chiefs. They beat the Jets at home, and then they lose to the Rams at home. So 4-13 for me. Bunch of starred games. Week 1 against the Broncos, obviously Russell Wilson's going to beat them Monday night, week 1. So it's going to hurt for the Seahawks fans to see Russ go into Seattle and beat them. Week 3 against the Falcons and week 4 at the Lions. I have those as wins right now. They could be losses, to be honest. And that would put them at 2-15 where Logan's at right now. So would not be surprised if those are losses, especially the Lions one. Week 8 against the Giants, that's another one that I think I don't know. We'll see what Daniel Jones looks like in that offense. Week 10, that's a special game. That's in Munich at the Bucs. They're going to lose that one, though. Week 15 against the Niners, that's a Thursday night game. Their only other primetime game other than the Week 1 Monday nighter. They're going to lose to the Niners in Seattle. And then Week 17 against the Jets. It's a win right now. Again, though, all 4 of their wins, I could see a potential where they could lose. I don't have them upsetting anyone. I think their schedule's too hard. Teams that they could possibly upset, the Panthers. I think they could do that, and I think they could get the Cardinals possibly once. They could be an upset candidate for the Saints, but that one's in the Superdome week 5, so I don't really like picking that upset. Fantasy-wise, quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Drew Lock. So you shouldn't be drafting either of these guys. Drew Lock, I think, has the higher potential. Geno Smith's been in the offense longer, a lot longer, the last 3 or 4 years. He has been in Seattle as the backup to Russell Wilson. So we'll see. It didn't look pretty when Geno started the game last year. So we'll see. Running backs, Rashad Penny, Chris Carson. So Rashad Penny, I do like. I think he's going to get undervalued in fantasy because he's on a bad team. So I think you can get Rashad Penny somewhere in the 4th or 5th round. And if you can get him there, I would say take it because they're going to be a run offense. They're going to want to pass the ball because they're going to be down. But I think Pete is going to run the ball, and I would say draft Rashad Penny if you can. Chris Carson, I feel bad. He was always one of my favorite guys to get in the mid rounds, and he's not going to be there anymore, not with the addition of Ken Walker, which we'll talk about. But I would say Chris Carson is not draftable at this point with what the roster looks like. Wide receivers, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Freddie Swain, D. Eskridge. Metcalf, yes, draft him high. I don't think it's going to matter, the quarterback. We've seen it with other wide receivers that are very good. DeAndre Hopkins did it in Houston with mediocre quarterback play for years. So I think DK can do the same. He should have enough target share that he can still produce at a low wide receiver 1 level. Lockett, draft him later if you can. He has fallen off a little bit, and we'll have to see which one Smith and Locke like. That's the issue with drafting any of the Seahawks, especially when you're looking at wide receivers, tight ends, guys that are catching the ball. The uncertainty of which guy it's going to be under center, I think, changes the values, because I think there are higher values if Drew Lock is the guy because he has a bigger arm than it is if Geno Smith is under center. Then I would, if Smith is the guy, I would say Rashad Penny's value goes up. If Lock is the guy, I would say Penny's value stays the same and the receiver's tight end's value goes up with the bigger arm. But yeah, Lockett, I would say draft later if you can. Freddie Swain is a guy that I don't really like that much. D. Eskridge is a guy you could possibly, if he's a free agent, stash him on your dynasty taxi squad if you want to. Tight ends, Noah Fant, Will Dissly. Noah Fant, I know a lot of people are high on him, but when you look at it, he really didn't perform that well in Denver, and he also was injured a lot in Denver. So I think that's an issue with this tight end room. Will Dissly has had major injuries as well. He has been very, very good when he has played, or before he got injured, but has not been the same since. Noah Fant, again, we'll have to see which quarterback it is, Smith or Locke, and that I think will determine his value. But I do think you can get tight end 2 numbers out of Noah Fant. Seahawks defense, don't touch it. They should be better than last year. Jordan Brooks, Cody Barton at linebacker. They do have some good corners in Trey Brown, Sidney Jones, Justin Coleman, Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, who they drafted, which I love. They also have John Reed, Artie Burns, and then they have the safety tandem of Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Marquise Blair, who they got in free agency. But I wouldn't draft them. They're going to be down in a lot of games. I forgot to say with the Niners special teams, I think that could push them into the top 10. Ray McLeod was one of the best punt returners last year with the Steelers, and I think he could upgrade their return game in the punt return aspect anyways. Maybe not kick return, but punt return. Not really return-wise here. Freddie Swain and DJ Dallas are your punt and kick returners. I'm not scared by either of those guys, so I don't think that adds to the value of the defense, special teams, fantasy unit. So, yeah, don't draft the Seahawks defense, special teams. Rookies-wise, running back Ken Walker, he is going in the top 3 in most rookie dynasty league drafts right now. And I'm not really sure why. I couldn't tell you. I like Rashad Penny. I love Ken Walker. Loved him more when he was Kenneth Walker at Michigan State, but he should be drafted. He has an opportunity. He's on a bad team, and I'm not so sure about his longevity. He got a lot of carries at Michigan State, and we'll have to see. But I am not too high on him. In redraft leagues, I think you can take a flyer on him late when you're getting into that range where you're drafting rookies, defense, and kickers. So, yeah, that's where I would say Ken Walker is. And then the wide receivers, Bo Melton, Derek Young. No, don't draft them in either dynasty or redraft. I don't think they're worth it right now. Bo Melton has the higher ceiling. Derek Young's probably not going to make the roster. But, yeah, neither are really worth a roster spot at this point. So my division rankings end up Rams. They win the division at 10-7. Niners at 9-8. They get a wild card. Cardinals miss the playoffs at 8-9. And the Seahawks miss the playoffs, potentially in the running for number 1 overall pick at 4-13. Logan had the Rams at 10-7, second place. The Niners at 11-6 in first. The Cardinals at 7-10, I believe, in third place, and the Seahawks at 2-15, getting the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 draft. So that is the NFC West. Next week, we'll be back talking season previews. We're looking at the AFC North, and next week we will have a special guest rejoining us. It will be University of Georgia professor Dave Muai. He will be back talking Steelers with us, talking new Steelers, new outlook in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium. It sounds stupid. I don't know. But that's the show for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter at or FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Facebook, etc. And don't forget also to follow our new account at FAA_bets on Twitter to get all our futures coming out this summer. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Logan. And we will see y'all